All right, I will call this March 12th, 2025 Town Council meeting to order. Recognize that there is a quorum present. Welcome to all those in the chambers and welcome to all those who are tuned in online. We appreciate your participation. Ms. Cake, we have a roll call, please.
Mrs. Amos?
Here.
Mr. Reed?
Here.
Mr. Dwyer? Mr. Parrott?
Here.
Mr. Yolen? Mr. Hunter?
Here.
Mr. Hardy?
Here.
Thank you. Next up, we'll have the invocation, which I will lead. You're welcome to join in if so inclined, or not to if so inclined, and we'll follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Vice Mayor Reed. All right, thank you. It almost seems a crime to be on here on such a beautiful evening, but we don't have a choice, so here we go. First item up is adoption of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
I make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Do we have anyone who wishes to make a declaration of personal interest concerning anything on the agenda this evening? Not hearing anyone. I believe we have an amendment to the agenda and an introduction. Mr. Davis?
Yes, if we could, I'm going to ask Ashley to come up, and she's going to bring up Robert, who is our new town planner.
Good evening. I'd like to introduce Robert Dvorak. He comes to us with a degree in urban planning from VCU, and he's currently working on his master's degree in natural resources with Virginia Tech. We are excited to have Robert, and he has hit the ground running with the community development team. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you. Welcome. And you're commuting at this moment? Is that true? Yes? I am. Okay. And well, we look forward to the fruits of your labor, and we appreciate you joining the team.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, we have public comment period. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment period, Ms. McKay?
No, sir.
All right. We'll move on from public comment period into the consent agenda. You have the draft minutes of the 2025-01-16 special meeting. That was the joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors and Council. Plus, we had the work session, we had the council retreat, and we had a regular council meeting minutes, so a big packet of minutes. If there's no changes to any of those minutes, do we have a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. All right, next up is the finance report. Ms. Julie Moore.
Good evening. You have the February finance report in front of you. For the ABM project, we earned $9,983 for the month of February. And again, that's going to go towards our future payment. For our VIP, we earned $13,499. For the sweep accounts, we earned $4,383. And for our LGIP, we earned $33,696. So in total for February, we earned $51,578. Any questions?
Any
Thanks.
questions at this time? Not hearing any? Thank you, Ms. Moore. So that's the February 2025 finance report. Do I hear a motion to accept the finance report as presented?
Make a motion, we accept the finance report as presented.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Old business. This is a carryover from previous meeting as we had this on the agenda, but the storm waylaid our folks at Dominion, who are obviously busy dealing with the aftermath there. So we welcome them to the chambers. And if there are any questions, should we just proceed into questions for the?
There's three, I mean, it's all combined, but you have to vote on each one separately.
Right.
But I don't think there's anything wrong. If you have any questions, it's all the same project.
Yeah, it's been reviewed in a work session previously. We were going to move on action last meeting, but here it is in front of us now. Do we have any questions that anyone would like to address towards?
Just as a reminder, Mayor, we did have a public hearing at the
Yes.
last meeting, and there was no one from the public that came and spoke for or against or had questions.
Thank you for that reminder.
I'd like to ask some questions. I'd like to be explained to me what your process is, what the purpose of this is. Are you going to make a U-shaped entrance and come out where the trailer sits now as part of your entrance and exit to the site? Will there be lights involved with it? Will there be any noise creation from it? Just some general questions.
Thank you for your questions. My name is Karen Morgan. I'm with Timmons Group, the engineer, working with Dominion Energy on this project. Thank you, members of council and mayor, for having us here today. So for the project right now, as proposed, there are two existing entrances to the Dominion site, one off East 3rd Street, which is primarily for employees that work in the office, and then one off Millwood Drive, which is to access what we call their operations yard, which is more where their fleet trucks park. There are other existing entrances on the parcels that are being presented to be rezoned and have added to the CUP. Those entrances are being removed for this project's purposes, and the only two entrances will be the existing ones that currently exist on Millwood and East 3rd Street. So no change to the way the site's accessed, no additional traffic implications other than just there'll be a larger building, so you'll have some more employees showing up to the building. But that's the only thing that's changing from a perspective of access to the site.
But in regards to lighting, as far as, is this a building that would be lit 24 hours a day? Or is it just, nighttime only, or even being lit, period?
I might defer to the Dominion team if they know on lighting for the operations. Do we expect to have additional lighting for the yard area?
Sure, we do expect to have site lighting around the rear yard that'll be lit in the evening for both safety and security.
Would these be overhead lights, like light poles that have directional lights to them?
Yes, sir, they will. There'll be light poles with directional lights that'll shine down on the yard.
Directly down to where it will not have a light impact to the surrounding neighborhood?
True, and we'll comply with any, ordinances there. Yeah, absolutely.
You're in my backyard.
Understood.
I don't know of any other questions. I was just curious. I know you purchased the property with the trailer on it, and I was just curious if you were going to use that as an entrance and an exit, or if you're just going to have the existing entrance and exit, then that's fine. I was just
Yes,
curious.
sir. Nope. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, too. I appreciate your time.
Yep. Happy to answer any other questions if there are any.
Are there any other questions at this time?
Thank you.
Not hearing you. Thank you. All right, so we've got the first item, which is request adoption of ordinance number 238 to amend the official zoning map to rezone the 1.924 acres from R1 to B3. Do I hear a motion on that ordinance number 238?
I move that we request the adoption of ordinance 238.
Second.
Motion and second. Any additional discussion at this time? Not hearing any. Ms. McKay, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer,
Yes.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Hunter,
Yes.
Mr. Hardy,
Yes.
Mrs. Amos. Yes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Next up in that grouping is the approval of resolution number 2025-0201 for a conditional use permit to allow public maintenance and service facility to support a public utility at East Third and Milne Wood. Do I hear a motion on resolution number 2025-0201?
I make a motion, we request approval of resolution number 2025-0201 for a conditional use permit to allow public maintenance and service facility to support a public utility East Third Street and Millwood Road.
Second.
Motion and second. Any additional discussion at this time? Not hearing any. Ms. McKay, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Hunter?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Mrs. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. And last in that bundle is request approval of resolution number 2025-0202 for a conditional use permit to allow public maintenance and service facility to support a public utility at 190 Milnewood Road. Do I hear a motion on resolution number 2025-0202?
I make a motion, we approve resolution number 2025-0202.
Second.
Motion and second. Any additional discussion at this time? Not hearing any. Ms. McKay, we have a roll call, please.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Hunter?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Mrs. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
The motion passes.
All right, thank you. That concludes old business. We can move into new business. First item of new business concerns the 2025 chronological work plan that was collaborated on by council at the retreat. Do we have any discussion concerning the 2025 chronological work plan? And if not, any changes, is there a motion to adopt the 2025 work plan as compiled?
I'll make a motion to adopt the 2025 chronological work plan as presented.
Second.
Motion and second. Any additional discussion at this time? Not hearing. Ms. McKay, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Hunter?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Mrs. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. So the 2025 work plan derived from the council retreat that we had. It's a public document and outlines some of the goals of council for the next 12 to 48 months and even stretching beyond that. So nice to have that on the record. And next up is the meat of our discussion, which concerns real estate tax rate and health insurance increase. Do you have anything to add here, Mr. Davis?
No, I just for overall purposes, since the last meeting, we've given you a little bit more information as far as a breakdown of revenue, general information about that, breakdown of the expenditures of what there are, some of the major ones, and then you have all the information also from last week regarding the payment in lieu of benefits, health insurance benefits, that breaks it out. That there was some question about salaries and those individuals and those types of things. Also, just for your edification, of that numbers, only of that group, it's 23.4% of the employees that receive that. And then you also have the tax history from what we could go back as far as 1984. And where it was from 84 to 90, which was 22 cents. And then it went down, which not fully understand the reasoning, but that wasn't during our tenure. And then you also have a breakout from last time also of what that does as far as budget-wise, along with what you choose to do with the pay in lieu of. So I'm open for any questions or anything like that during your deliberation.
I will say I had a question of the town clerk and had her pull the minutes and the record of each of those tax rate points. And it seems the minutes kept were perhaps less thorough than they are currently. There's not as much discussion included in the votes, and so you just kind of got the votes and who voted. I will say that from what little I could glean, there was perhaps the traditional mode of operation that was in years of surplus, you cut back, you cut your taxes, and in years of deficit, you increase your taxes. That seemed to be the back and forth that somewhat went on, but I can't speak to the exact reasoning because the minutes just expressed votes without any discussion. So I don't have any further, the digging into the minutes didn't prove very fruitful, but you have that piece as well. And the floor is open for any discussion concerning these items at this time.
We have 23.4% of employees, so let's get back to the numbers. So it's how many employees altogether?
In employees, there's 37 in town of Farmville employees. There's 39 that get that benefit total. I'm sorry, 30. There's 39, there's 32 that get it that are town employees.
32 employees,
Mm-hmm.
7 council members.
Mm-hmm.
So of those employees, do we have any way to tell? So I was thinking, some employees probably are on their parents' insurance, that can stay on their parents' insurance till they're 26. Do we have any idea?
That's
how
on the
many?
list, there's one.
There's only one of those? How many employees out of those 32 are close to retirement? Do we have any of those? I'm just thinking from attrition, like turnover or anything like that.
We did not look at their years of service or their retirement. That could be, we would really have to dig in because it would depend if the employee that gets it went to VRS when we did, or if they stayed on the town's old system. And so their retirement eligibility for VRS is one thing. There is no eligibility really for the other if they stayed on that retirement system. And as we know, that it doesn't mean when you're eligible that you'll retire. So.
Sure. So I'm going to throw my thought process out there, if you guys don't mind, of what I'm thinking. So I do not want to take any of this payment in lieu from the employees. $8,500 is a lot of money, so I don't want to take it away. I want to stop it from future employees. So I want to leave it as it is. And I know that sounds like I'm being stingy because I'm on town council. Okay, I know that sounds that way. I'm more concerned of the employees. I want to leave the payment in lieu for our employees. I want to stop future, and that's where I stand right now. So I'd like to hear from everybody else.
Can I ask a question while we're in the questions like you were asking? Are there, I can't remember what the Medicare rule is. Is there anybody that's above the age of 65? Do they have to stay on the health insurance? If we offer health insurance, do they have to stay on the health insurance? And I'm looking this way too, because I'm not sure who might know. If they're eligible for Medicare, can they be on Medicare and still work for the town and get this $8,500?
So They don't have to take Medicare either if they're working for the town and get the insurance. I'm not sure about, as Amanda, if they don't, they have to have insurance to get this. Correct. Yeah.
But I mean, do we know of anybody that has given proof of insurance that it is Medicare? Because that would show us other people that, like Sally was asking, that are closer to a retirement point.
So you're saying, I mean, Medicare 65, so you're asking, is anyone on that list that's 65 or older?
Kind of, I mean, not completely, I'm just kind of, if their insurance is Medicare, because that just kind of tells you, like Sally's saying, how many of these people will fall off over the next, I don't know, 4 or 5 years?
I don't think did we look at their age? I mean, we didn't look at their age, did we?
No, but I have a general idea. Most of the time, the folks that are receiving this benefit, it's because they waived our insurance to begin with, and most of them at the time were not of age for Medicare. Off the top of my head and knowing the list, I would say that none are on Medicare. I know of a few that have Medicaid assistance and receive that, but there are none on Medicare that I am aware of, but we could take a deeper look at the age. I've not had anybody come to me with a Medicare card and then fall off of our insurance at this time.
Okay. It's for me, it's not a matter of whether they're on Medicare
Right.
or Medicaid or
Right.
whatever, because that's really pretty much irrelevant. I'm just thinking about where they are in their life of work, and if some of those are, I'm trying to, I'm not necessarily trying to help Sally with her thought process. I'm just trying to get us all in the same, if there's anybody that's coming off. That's kind of where I'm going is are there, like 28 of the 32 are going to be on there for 6, 8, 10, 12 years and stuff like that, or half of them are going to be retiring out in the next 5 years or so, because that kind of makes me think about where I would go as well.
Absolutely. Off the top of my head, a lot of them are either newer employees. Quite a few are people that have been here since I started. And then there's a few people that I know are not anywhere tenured enough to leave yet. There are probably a few, to answer your question, but I think the majority will be here for a while. Does that help?
That helps a lot. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody?
And I understand what Amos is saying in reference to the employees, and I've always been for the employees 100%. Even before I got on council, I was for the employees, and I'm still for the employees. I guess what I've been toying with is the fact of being fair across the board. And I don't like punishing people for something that we created, but when we wouldn't even be having this conversation if, I don't think we'd be having this conversation if we were notified of the 100 employees that we needed to be, our threshold was to have the 100 employees for Anthem. We would have this discussion, but it wouldn't be now, and it wouldn't seem as bad now, because instead of paying the 12% for Anthem this year, it would only be 1.6. And when it's low in the past years, we've eaten that cost. So I understand that, but all of this has come to a head at one time, and that's what makes it bad. My thoughts on it is, again, if we have to take it away, we phase it out. And it's going to be up to the rest of you all if we phase it out, and how many years or how many times we phase it out. But if anybody else wanted to get on it now, we wouldn't want them to get on it. But just suppose we had 20 more people to get on it. Then we had to look at that price as well. So and I understand what Ms. Amos is saying, to stop it, to say, okay, we can grandfather everyone else in, but how do we fairly do that if other people wanted to join on in this year that we're in? So.
Nobody joins.
No, I'm just saying, just because we're having this discussion, if somebody just decided they wanted to get insurance somewhere else and they wanted to get that $8,500 for however long we decide to do it. Just say we grandfather it in. If they decided they wanted to do it, how do we do that?
Is the question, are we, can we do that effective immediately? That we,
It's not possible.
the
We just
grandfather
don't let
day
them do
is,
it.
I would, you need a formal resolution to have it clear, documented in a good, structured way, not this evening. We could have a call meeting next week, but it needs to be a resolution that is clearly stated, something to the effect of, as of June 30, 2025, the pay in lieu of benefits will no longer be available to any employee. If you go to phase it, it would have language in there about every year for the next 4 years, we're going to reduce it by this, or over the next 2 years, it's going to be reduced by this. It has to be clearly stated in a resolution form.
Do you think it was fair when the town took away everybody's insurance, health insurance, when they retired? I mean, you had people that retired as of such and such date that has their health insurance paid for, and the subsequent employees, like, are not getting that done, that paid for. I mean, that's a huge benefit that we cut off. You see what I'm saying? I mean, thousands of dollars that former employees had walked away from. You see what I'm saying? I mean, I could name some right now that left and got this benefit when we cut and knew it was coming and left. So, I mean, life's not fair. So, I mean, if you're thinking about other employees, I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, it was our fault, so we eat it, and that's it.
I know my biggest question was in reference to if anybody else wanted to get on, could they get on? And Scott answered that. He's saying we'd have to make it something like June 30th. So I couldn't tell you if anybody else wanted to switch over. But if
I use that as, because it's the end of the fiscal year, you can make it March 31st if you want, and you do it next week. I just use the end of the fiscal year, but yes,
which is normal. You do the end of the fiscal year.
I think it would probably be, I'm sorry, Dan, I think it would probably be hard for somebody to jump off and get on to another insurance right now, but it's not impossible. But I'm with you thinking the earlier we cut it off, the better.
I think we've all probably spent the last week dwelling on this, making phone calls. It's a very serious topic. I happen to share the sentiment of Mr. Hunter. I think that it was probably not a great idea ever to start this, is my opinion, but we're in it. But it's hard to perpetuate it to also, I think do you just keep going down the road, or at some point do you say this is just not sustainable? I happen to think it's really not sustainable. I also feel like pulling the plug completely down to the $1,000 limit would be a sudden, perhaps, hardship. But I think I also would agree that I believe a phase out. Now, the details of that we would have to discuss, but I'm of like sentiment that that we phase out the benefit.
Okay, my turn. This, of course, as Mr. Dwyer said, this has been a red hot chili pepper, to say the least. I've gone back and forth on both sides, and I'm not sold on either side. But tonight, right now, I would like to see us, effective July 1, go back to the $1,000 in lieu of, do away with this. In the meantime, it gives town employees 3 months to get their ducks in a row as far as finances are concerned. If it does cause an undue hardship, they've got 3 months to adjust. As Dr. Davis pointed out, this is a benefit. This is not a salary. So consequently, when they applied for the job, they had no idea that they were going to get this in lieu of when they joined on. They joined on for a fixed salary at the time in which they applied for their job. It's roughly $300,000 that we're talking about, give or take, for 32 people. Whereas, as Dr. Davis said, it's only 23.5%. With this $300,000 cost incurred for this, the town residents have to pay for it in some form or fashion. The town employees who do not take it do not benefit from it. I think there's an inequality with it. I understand these 39 people that are affected by it will be impacted, but as been previously stated, it was never mentioned in their salary. It was only after they signed on that they found out that they had the opportunity to take this in lieu of. So there was really no misleading in the amount of money they were making when they signed on as an employee for the town of Farmville. So therefore, I would like to see us take July 1 as a date of where we discontinue it, drop it back down to $1,000 for the in lieu of payment for all people who are currently receiving that payment. Therefore, it makes roughly, give or take, $250,000, $275,000 disappear as far as the deficit is concerned. Now, I don't like it, but I think we owe it to the citizens of the town of Farmville to be fair to them, as well as fair to the rest of the town employees who are not getting it. So that's how I feel about it. And I'm open to hear anybody's comments.
Mr. Parrott, on that, can I ask that it be, can we do it with the end of the fiscal year, just that one extra, that
Yes.
1 day less?
Yes, I meant the fiscal year.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you. That'd be cleaner that way.
Can we have time to digest this and have a call meeting next week?
Yes, to that point, I've already been in discussion with Mr. Davis about that possibility. And so we do have the date of the 18th held as a possible day to do a special called meeting, should that be the consensus of council. We would have the full council back at that time. Donald's shaking his head, that's not gonna work.
I'm not in town.
Yeah, Tuesday, the 18th is the earliest, because we have to give 3 business days notice.
So it could be other days that week as well.
I'm not in town on the 18th or the 19th. Well, I'll be back later the 19th for our meeting.
Can I possibly ask that we kind of kick the can, so to speak, with us right now, as far as kind of take a poll to see how we stand, where we are, to kind of get a feel as far as if we're way, way apart, that's okay. But I really just want to know how far apart we are so that we can try to find an answer.
I'm not in favor of and this is from last week, I'm not in favor of cutting anybody's throat, going from 8,500, which when you say it's not in their salary, and someone mentioned this to me the weekend, when you say it's not in their salary, when they go to purchase a house or a car, it is in their salary. As much as we say it's not, those numbers, when they show their forms of saying what they make for the town of Farmville, those numbers are in there.
I think what my comment would be to that is, and I understand exactly what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying, but if I came to apply for the job and say it was a $40,000 job, and I get my $40,000 job, and then 2 weeks later, I have the option of staying on my parents' insurance and taking an additional $8,400, $8,500 in lieu of, it never was presented when I signed up for the job of $40,000 or whatever the number is.
And I would agree to that, but you know how word circles in a small town. A lot of people back then, when this started, knew that when they came to the town of Farmville, if they didn't take the insurance, even on town council, before you get on town council, you knew that if you didn't take the insurance, you could get the pay. So a lot of people knew that prior to receiving the job.
But we don't, also, we have a different town manager now. We didn't have an HR person. I don't really know if we know what transpired in a job interview or a hire. I mean, do we really know that that wasn't discussed at that point? No, we can't go back, but I'm just saying that it could have been conceivably presented there. Well, here's our insurance benefit. And if you don't take it, if you have insurance otherwise or something planned, that it is, here's the option. You can get in lieu of. I don't know that we know that that's true or not. I'm open for somebody who knows that.
But getting back to Tommy's original question, because I know he has a motion on the table because he made one. It wasn't-
There was no motion made. No motion's been made at this time.
All right. So getting back to the question in reference to phasing it in or cutting it off, I would rather phase it in. Phase it out.
My only addition to the general discussion is that I think it's also important publicly to recognize that over the past 3 fiscal years, we have provided 10,000 in salary increases to employees as well. So, and I thought about that today, and I was like, it almost felt like there was a premonition that this situation would arise. But there's that.
I think that the public, I don't know what the public thinks, but I would just say that if we did a phase out, that's the understanding that it's going to disappear. This is just softens the blow for those who possibly have a need that would be an immediate with down to $1,000 could be very difficult. But just knowing that perhaps it would be some solace to the public to know that if we went to a step down or move in and out of it, that is the goal, that we are going to would lower a certain amount of money each year until we zero it out. I wouldn't want to personally extend this, it's an extremely long time. I would see it as a very short-term phase out, maybe over, I'm just guessing here, and this is one person's view, but maybe over even a couple of years to get it down to that $1,000 point with the goal of, this, we're moving out of this.
I'll kind of jump in on top of that with Mr. Hunter and Mr. Dwyer, and a phase out would be where I would be, and I've had conversations with different folks, and 2 to 4 year phase out would be amenable to me, but I would like to see it stop literally of people being able to get onto it the day that we pass the ordinance for it, so that nobody can jump on and at least get some money between now and let me jump on it. And I'm not trying to say somebody will, but I just want to avoid that extra expense. Don't wait till June the 30th to have the cutoff date. Go ahead and make the cutoff date as soon as we have the ordinance, just to, now we're clear, now we know nobody else is going to get on, let's move forward from that moment on and then phase it out over 2 to 4, and I'm okay with either one. And I will say that I did know that there was, in lieu of, when I was elected, it was not why I did it, but it is a nice addition in my life, and it has helped me immensely in moments of need. So I feel like there are employees that has probably helped them in their moments of need, and it's taking it away altogether is going to be very hard, not because of me, I'm fine, but for the employees, taking it away from them is going to be a very tough thing, and it's going to hurt.
It's also possible, I think, in this process, if the goal is to increase the number of people on our insurance, which would be nice to get it up over the 100 or maybe substantially over the 100. It's possible somebody might not be on the insurance now and they opt to go on it because it thinks that $8,500 is no longer available. It might be the time to make a move to get on the insurance plan, which I would see as a positive. It may not happen, but it might be the potential there.
I'm not budging. I'm fighting for these employees to keep this money, so I'm not budging. Respect to everybody up here, but I'm not budging.
So Mayor, can we have a call meeting next week to?
We'd have to decide on what date was suitable to folks. Sounds like Mr. Hunter is out 18th and 19th. I'm technically supposed to be in Richmond on the 19th and 20th for Department of Wildlife Resources meetings, but this is more important, so I could definitely not attend those. So that leaves
The 20th?
20th or 20.
I'm not available the 20th. I had not planned for a meeting in prior, but
What
we
about?
could always do Friday.
You love that idea. Friday, 21st, Friday.
Friday would actually be better. I've got a grandson's ball game on the 20th, but I hate to miss it, but I would, here is, as you say, more important, but Friday would be fine by me too.
I'm gonna make it regardless. Can I ask what's gonna transpire at the meeting? Is the public gonna be showing up with questions? It's not a hearing. I mean,
not a
what's
hearing.
different than tonight?
To digest what we're talking about now.
Well, we talked about this last week, but, I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but I'm not sure there's anything new light coming to it, but I'm in agreement, just express an opinion.
Are we going to have a resolution before we come back to that meeting? That's what I'm wondering, because you said something about the wording of a resolution. So do we kind of need to make a somewhat of a decision-ish? I don't know what the next step is.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, it would be beneficial to you all and the staff to have a detailed resolution of what you're trying to achieve, what you want to achieve.
That's why I was trying to get an idea of what everybody was thinking, so that maybe we could try to find some middle ground to try to get there.
I mean, I can draft 3 or 4 of them, but I mean, it will be all across the board.
We got to have some kind of
I got
general
Mr.
consensus.
Hardy wanting March 31st potentially, or the day of the meeting. I've got June 30.
I want day of the meeting.
So.
Well, let's figure that one out. Day of the meeting or June 30th?
Got to be done regardless. It's just a question of when. I say sooner than later, because people have a chance, depending on how it comes out, it gives people time to react to what we've done, because it will not, my understanding is it will not take effect till July 1st for next calendar year.
Hold on, what will not take effect? I'm sorry.
The health insurance in lieu of.
I'm just
So-
referring to
so-
stopping anybody from getting on.
Oh,
Stopping
excuse me.
anybody from getting on the day of the meeting, and Sally was in agreement with me on that.
Yeah, that.
I'm
that-
sorry.
And that's as far as we've gotten is. That's all I'm thinking about right now is stop it that day. And if,
You can tell me that, but I want you to actually pass a resolution in the minutes saying that specifically. In a perfect world, it'd be better if you had everything done where everything could be in the same resolution of, like I said before, no one else can participate as of March 21st, and that the benefit is going to continue until you're off, you can't get back on, the right wordage, or whether it's phased out and what that phasing out is, all that needs to be in an adopted resolution.
So in other words, we need to pound it out tonight.
It would be beneficial given timeframes, I think. But well, I just think, we're on the back end a little bit to Mr. Hunter's point. And given circumstances outside of our control, partly influenced by the General Assembly and things that happen there, where state insurance got shopped. Decision to stick with Anthem was late being relayed to local governments. Local governments then got their rates a little bit late. Everybody's on the back end. We're in budget season, and any continual delay in these deliberations continues to impact budget deliberations. So yes, it could go to the 21st if there was a majority sentiment to move in a direction tonight. That would be, more helpful, but at the same time, if not, yeah, going to the 21st is a possibility.
Most likely, we're going to have a few more called meetings in order to get all of this accomplished. I mean, in that you've got to also discuss the real estate tax rate, which is tied to whatever you do with this in some fashion, because we've given you the money scenario. You've got to have a public hearing to equalize. You've also got to have a public hearing if you raise it. All that has to be done so that we know what we're dealing with money-wise in order to finish the budget.
So are you saying that that resolution that we do just for the health insurance piece needs to have basically two parts? A, cut off everybody, and B, what we're going to do to phase it out if we're going to phase it out? Is that what you're saying? Kind of sort of two pieces to it.
Yeah, because that's what we have to follow.
Okay, so
we have to have we have to have those documents for us. That's the law you're passing for us to do that, and then we can then begin doing the financial piece of that.
So can we take that at each piece of that and say, all right, let's cut it off? Part A, is everybody amenable to cutting it off? I propose that we cut it off effective immediately of whatever night we choose to have our meeting. You can't get onto it after that date, period. And if we're all in agreement on that, then we can move on to another piece. That's where I'm just kind of get it worked through.
I find it hard to believe for 21 years, we've been doing this payment in lieu, and then all of a sudden, we've got to cut it, and we're at $8,500, and now we're screwing the employee.
No, I've mentioned this multiple times of how this would affect us long-term on the expense side since I've been here in this position, and nothing has ever been done. At one time, it was, when I first brought this up, we were only at $250,000 in pay in lieu of. We are now at $331,000. It has continued to increase to where the long-term expense is a detriment to the town from a financial perspective.
So the yearly benefit to individuals in 2004, 2005 was $3,660. The yearly benefit to employees currently is $8,500. It's definitely, I remember having a discussion with council member Jamie Davis about this topic when I was on council originally, and just fearing when it would become an issue. Yeah, I think there's been multiple reasons that have facilitated it becoming an issue, but we're the group, or this is the group that gets tasked with facing it.
We will be the bad guys regardless.
We got to have some middle ground somewhere.
I'll throw out a proposal. And this is it's not a house of rocks, it's a house of cards, so it's subject to somebody saying, are you ridiculous? I can take that. I would think if we cut it back to roughly $5,700 this year, that would be a third. And then next year, we take it down to $2,850, which is the second third. The budget after that, it would be down to $1,000. That's the talk about, that's not a motion.
again, no, we didn't create this. We've been on it for a while. I never like hurting employees in reference to doing things, but the few can't outweigh the many. And what we have to do is our due diligence to be, since we were put on this board, is to even the playing field. It's a hard pill to swallow, and I've been on both sides. So I guess what we really have to do tonight, no matter how long it takes, we need to come up with a resolution first. To me, we need to come up with a resolution of cutting it off for anyone new to get on, and also phasing it out, whether we use Dan's methodology or we come up with another methodology. But I don't know if another meeting is going to get us any further than what we are right now. But I'm open to another meeting. But if we can get it done tonight, it's easier on the staff. We still have a lot more meetings we have to attend, and we have a lot more we have to hash out in reference to the budget.
Unfortunately, we're not going to be popular whatever direction we go with this. I despise the whole situation, but I don't think it's upon us to do the right thing. And I'm hoping that the 6 of us tonight can at least try to find some common ground to where we can get this taken care of, because it's not going to go away.
I will say that, I agree with Tommy. It sucks. It really does. But I'm okay with Dan's 1/3 gone. I hate it for the employees. But I also would like for that cutoff date to be effective immediately.
I may be wrong in saying this, but I think we're all in agreement that the in lieu of stops as far as any new hires as quick as we possibly can. Am I correct that we all feel that way?
I'm good with it.
Like John said, at least we've got that part taken care of. Now we got to come up with some middle ground on the in lieu of. How do y'all feel about what he said? I mean, everybody gets a voice in this. Sally, will you wiggle at all?
No, I'm not wiggling at
Okay,
all.
all right. Chucky? I'm willing to give. I mean, this is not, it's not a perfect world. I'm willing to give. I'll go with Danny if y'all will follow with him. I mean, it's not what I personally would like, but we've got to come to a solution.
It is not fair to take employees' money when we willingly gave it to them since 2004. We eat this and move on. It is not going to break us. It is not going to break us. It will eventually filter out. Eventually.
The only problem I see, and Ms. Amos, the only problem I see in reference to eating it this year, and I say again, I don't think we'd be having this discussion because right now it's 12% for our anthem. And the projection without this hiccup of 100 employees being on anthem would only be 1.6%. So that's I understand what you're saying. It's just a bad time for it. We wouldn't even be discussing it now. I don't think it would be even brought up now if that wouldn't have been the problem.
But the truth, yeah, I mean, I agree with that. But the truth is, we've got to close a gap in our budget. We have a shortfall. So if we don't cut this sum, we're going to have to cut something else, I suppose, that might be viewed by some more universal to the community.
What is more important than your employees?
The citizenry.
The people that we represent.
I mean, everybody's important, but like Don said, we've got 4,500 residents that also are going to be paying increased taxes. Some of it will be to sustain this, whatever we put it at.
I think it's going to be cuts across the board. So not only if it is the employees, not only is it going to be the employees, but in order to go back to my citizens, that'll to me, the whole town, you might as well say, and have an explanation of what we've done, everybody's gonna have to take a bite of the apple.
Are you saying that you would be amenable to Danny's suggestion?
Oh, yeah, I said that earlier.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, we're currently sitting at 4 who seem agreeable to that scenario. And it is unfortunate, but it also, to the point, like there's the citizens of the town, but there's also the other employees on the health insurance, which make up a much wider swath of the employee base. And currently, they pay a percentage of health insurance, and that health insurance increase of 12%, we haven't even talked about whether or not the town absorbs that whole 12% or that gets shared. And if that gets shared, that's a burden upon those other employees there.
Let me see if I can make it a little bit more palatable, if you don't mind. Please excuse me for interrupting you. With all due respect to what Sally is saying, you have brought up a very valid point of the fact of the 12% that I think personally we need as a town to suck up that difference, because that affects every single person that's on the insurance policy. So therefore, if we don't suck that up, then they take home less money now. I mean, if we don't take it up, they bring home less money. Bottom line, no question about it. So why not try to figure out an amicable solution to the in lieu of side of things, and on the flip side of it, show the rest of the town employees that we're willing to try to help them from incurring additional expenses with the cost of their insurance.
And I agree with you. I didn't even think any different about that. I just figured we were gonna eat the 12 because there's no need to punish them twice.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
I will say, and just in a brief moment of levity here, I was talking to a bunch of local elected officials the past few days in DC, and one of which was from Charleston, West Virginia, and their insurance rates went up 16%. And they have 26 council members. So they got to get 26 folks headed in the similar direction, whereas we have 7. Yeah.
I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to make a motion that we adopt Mr. Dwyer's thoughts of a third, and it's gone. In addition to the fact that to 1,000, I'm sorry. In addition to the fact that we also cut off the eligibility of the in lieu of payment as soon as we possibly can, to stop that from being an avenue for another employee who happens to join the force having that option. That's my motion.
Before we get a second, can we get the time frame of the reduction first?
I would like to make that effective the fiscal year of July 1 to June 30th of the following budget year.
I'm asking about the other 2 reductions as well.
So can I help out a little bit?
Sure.
I think maybe Mr. Dwyer needs to restate it as well. But Julie, just for I'm not discounting Mr. Dwyer's mathematics by any means, but the 8,500, we're talking about reducing it a third in the upcoming budget year, and then another third the following budget year.
A third of the original.
Correct. Will that bring us to $1,000 after 2/3?
No, it won't, because I was based on 0, but that should be adjusted so the thousands is still in play.
So we need to actually make a dollar amount, not thirds. That's what I'm trying to get to. So we need
Absolutely.
to figure out over the next 2 years, what is.
Okay, bookkeeper.
Like 2,500 will leave you with $1,000.
But we don't want to, we're going to do it over 2
Over
years.
3 years. They want to do 2 years.
They just want to do 2 years.
No, he said a third, and the last year would be 1,000, and that's where it would stay. But a third and a third doesn't add up correctly.
So it would be a third of $7,500, correct?
No, we got to go from 85. So if you
Well,
want to
but I mean,
reduce
if
it
you're
in
figuring up the math.
over 2-year period.
Right, but the $1,000, if we're going to leave it at the $1,000, we take that off of the amount that we're decreasing. We're decreasing by $7,500.
But you want to reduce it 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, right?
No. The third year, they want to allow it to stay at 1,000 as long as the person stays on the pay in lieu of
Okay, then it's $3,750
for 2
for
years.
2 years. And that will leave you $1,000.
So do I need to redo my motion?
Well, I mean, to be clear, yes. So you need to
Withdraw.
withdraw.
I withdraw my motion. So,
Now, anybody can make a new motion, and we're still going to pass a resolution for this. This is just to get you to the point where to get me to the point I can draft it and get it to you next week for a meeting.
okay, I'll try again. I would like to support Mr. Dwyer's idea of doing a reduction of $3,750 for the next 2 years, fiscal years, till we get to the $1,000 in lieu of, and at that time, we stay at the $1,000 in lieu of, along with putting a definitive cutoff date for the eligibility of in lieu of. Effective immediately.
So it'll be whatever that date is for the meeting.
Correct.
Why do you feel the need to do it for 2 years? Why not 3 years?
Why not 10? I mean, it's just, it's a number that gets, personally, I mean, everybody's got an opinion. I'm thinking that we don't want to sustain this for so long, so we can get it out of the budget. Hopefully, the town staff on it who has taken that can make their adjustments, and hopefully that's the case. But that's just my thought, 2 years.
So, there's a motion on the floor.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Any additional discussion at this time? All right.
Just for discussion, I mean, if it, and I've talked to several of you all, if it eases it for 3 years, I'll do the 3 years. That's just point of everybody having an understanding of we're doing everything we can for the employees not to, again, cut their throat.
Ms. Moore, what's 3 years?
Yeah, 25.
That's more digestible.
My comment to that, and with all respect, I understand exactly what you're saying, but I think, in my personal opinion, I owe it to the people who I represent to try to get the biggest bang for our buck, to make it disappear as quick as possible, so that they don't have to continue to subsidize that in their tax payments to take care of it. Just talking.
I'll throw the other devil's advocate on that, Tommy, and say I like the 3 years for the simple reason that our town employees are very important, and when our constituents see the above and beyond work that they do for us out there all night pushing snow and all of these other wonderful things that they do for us, it's a little tough to take it away. So I'd be amenable to the 3 as well with Sally and Donald.
I also agree with 3 years.
I have no problem doing the 3 years. We just need to cancel that motion.
Well, after a motion and a second, parliamentarian, we got to go through the vote.
After a motion and a second, he can still withdraw his motion, and it would have to be a withdrawal of the second. Or you can go with the full vote up and down, or he can make a substitute motion.
I'll make a substitute motion.
Well, you gotta hear the first motion first, or he can make a substitute motion.
I don't mind, I want to hear.
Either way, he can withdraw, and the second's withdrawn, which is just as easy.
I'd like to amend my motion.
That's fine.
I'd like to make it a 3-year period instead of a 2-year period.
At $2,500 per year,
That is correct.
and it would stabilize at $1,000 until those individuals come off.
Yes.
If they leave, they can't get back on.
There is no waffling on that. If they leave, they can't come back. In addition to the cutoff for the in lieu of
to
money.
Any new entries.
Yes.
As of the meeting next week, whatever
That-
that date
that is-
is, the resolution.
That's correct.
What does that mean, that they can't come back? What does
In other words, if someone's getting the pay in lieu of now, and they get off, even though they were on before, they can't get back on.
But they can get on our insurance.
Of course,
Yeah.
we can't
can
keep
always get on
someone from getting
insurance.
on insurance. Yes.
All right, so there's a new amended motion on the floor. Is there a second amended?
I second.
All right, so motion and second, discussion open again at this time for anybody with additional
So
discussion.
$2,500 times roughly, 39 employees, that's somewhere right around $100,000 that we'll be cutting out of the budget.
Any other additional discussion at this time? Not hearing any. Ms. McKay, we have a roll call, please.
Mr. Hardy,
Yes.
Mrs. Amos,
No.
Mr. Reed,
That on digest, yes.
Mr. Dwyer,
Yes.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Hunter.
Yes.
On a vote of 5-1, the motion passes.
All right, so that puts us in line for a resolution. Sounds like the best day to reconvene is the 21st. Do we have a preference on time schedule? One middle of the day, end of day? It is Friday. Put that
Middle day.
middle of the day? Like our traditional, old school work sessions, how about, Mr. Davis is scrambling, 11 o'clock on the 21st? High noon?
High noon.
You gonna make Chucky come in here be hungry and angry?
Angry.
By that time, he'd be eating twice.
We can do it in the morning if you want.
How about noon? How about noon? We get it high noon on the Friday, 21st. And then I'll take Mr. Reed out to lunch afterwards.
Well, what about the rest of us?
You are good with 11? All right, everybody good with 11, like old school work session? All
11
right.
it is.
Go 11 o'clock. All right. That was one. We also have the, we're gonna go, they're flashing town managers report. Do you want additional discussion on the real estate?
No, we
tax rate?
haven't. I didn't do that. You still have the tax
Yeah.
rate to discuss.
So, real estate tax rate discussion. This is a discussion that we've also been having and have waded into for the last week or so. Real estate tax rate currently sits at 13 cents. It was at 22 in the 80s. Through to 1990, then it dropped down to 18 in 91, stayed there till 96, then dropped to 14 in 97 to 2008, and then dropped to 10 in 2009, 2010, went up to 12, 2011, 2020, and then went up to 13 in 2021, 2023. You have the comparison sheets. I think the Herald reported on this as well, that there are comparable communities to us with a variety of real estate tax rates listed. And the floor is open for any discussion at this time concerning the real estate tax rate.
Mayor,
Yeah.
every
Yes, sir.
council member should have that in paper form in front of you. I made sure that you had those from previous discussions. Everything you just noted. And then you have the evaluation sheet that we've done from the equalization rate of 9 cents to our current rate to 13, and all the way to 26 cents. The only thing that those numbers are not going to show is with next fiscal year, if we do the 2,500, that reduces that 292 by $100,000.
Yeah, 97,500.
Roundabout, yes. So it'll be, instead of 292.5 in that expenditure to cut out that we had put, if doing away with it, it would now be, we'll just use 192.5. It's not quite there, but so when you're looking at these, that deficit or surplus is somewhat smaller. And if you're looking at, the best way to look at it is the furthest column to the right. Ignore the $1,000, but you have said you want the town to incur all the costs, so that last column, just reduce that by about 100,000.
Or would it be actually on up a little bit, because we would only reduce, instead of taking all of the insurance out, wouldn't we be just leaving some in? It's irrelevant. I mean, it's
That
it's
number, the
close.
292. You
Oh, yeah, the
reduce
292.
that-
Okay.
Reduce that by 100,000, which is gonna
Make the other one
change
go up.
it will change the deficit number. It will go up by 100,000.
I would go up by 2 the first year and technically 100 the second year, wouldn't it? I'm sorry, I'm just a math geek, but it's
This
not that
is-
important.
This is all based on the next year's budget.
Right.
Now we get to have another fun discussion on what we want to do with the tax rate. Anybody got any suggestions?
So,
Anybody want to, excuse me?
so these numbers, am I correct in that it's assuming that we're paying all the insurance rate increase for the employees on the plan?
That's the far right column.
Yeah, the far right one.
That's the best one to look at. That's what I was saying.
Thank you.
is
I'm
If you look
just-
at the far right column.
Yep, okay.
And you deduct the column where it says 292.5, that line, by 100,000. And then you add the deficit or surplus by 100,000 more. That's the only difference you're looking at in this sheet, as of right now.
Does this include the sports package we were doing?
Yeah, so if you look in your overview, you have that as well. We gave you a list of expenditures. I did have a council member reach out to me just so, for clarification. One of the numbers was 160,000 budgeted for upgrades to the Doswell fuel site. DEQ has established new testing requirements, but the majority of that 160,000 is for a new generator, because the generator that is there was put in 2000.
Is there any way can we get a price on leasing a generator, or is that possible?
Bless you.
You mean leasing to purchase?
Yeah.
We could, or we can just put it off till next year. Another large item in there is your sidewalk plan that you want, that we could defer for another year. The only comment I would make about the and this is based on y'all's comments, some of y'all's comments tonight, is that the fitness court, if you're going to increase a tax, and this is for y'all to decide, not me, obviously, it's good to have something in the budget that is for the community to use. That they're getting something. I know they get a lot out of services. Don't get me wrong. I think the town provides extremely well in services. But there's also sometimes the need for something tangible like that you actually can be able to go and do and touch and feel, if you will, instead of...
My question is, if we don't do it this year, are we able to do it next year on the fitness park?
No, we'd have to reapply for that grant through the National Fitness. But the goal is, and I've already gone, is to get commitments from others. So I've already gone to talk to the Lions Club. I think they're going to do something. I just don't know what. We're going to put in a grant with Centra Community Grant and see if we can get something from it. It's not a known because that's not awarded until September or October. So we have to show that we are willing to pay for it, but there could be some money that we get that it's not that we pay for the whole thing at the end of the day.
I had mentioned this before about Walmart, and another organization that I'm involved with, we were approached by Walmart of Appomattox, and they gave us an application to fill out. So can we check this Walmart again to see what they have?
We have, the fire chief has talked directly with the store manager, and Walmart does not have a corporate grant. It's only a local one, and he only gets $6,000 per year to give out to ship.
I think it's a limited amount per quarter or so. It's about $3,000, $3,000 to $5,000 maybe.
So
I don't know why Appomattox is so different then.
But we have spoken with our manager of this.
I will say that Dr. Davis and I discussed this a little bit yesterday, and the idea of keeping these kinds of things in there is great because we will draw people from out of town, and guess where they're going to go with their kids after they go to the splash park and the fit park? Well, they're going to run grab something to eat, I hope, at one of our local restaurants, and it'll offset a little bit by food tax and other things like that, or they'll go do some shopping downtown, and I think that's a very good thing to have as the things for the community. And I would love to know a little bit about some of the things that we do, just so the people in the community, some people don't know all the stuff we do and what other communities don't do compared to what we do. And Julie and I were discussing that as well. And one of the things was the big 4th of July celebration. And, here again, I know other towns don't have their roads owned by the town and get VDOT money as we do, but there are other towns and areas that they don't get their roads plowed in their town unless VDOT comes to do it. And I'm gonna tell you what, those guys, I will say it over and over again, those guys are the bomb that come out and clean our roads and stuff like that. So that's where I think I agree with you on the not pulling stuff like that out.
Can I, Julie made a comment to me today from another community in one of her conversations she would had. You want to share with, I don't normally do this, but I won't do it justice about what you said, but it is true because it came from another person in my position in another locality, but go ahead.
So I was actually talking to Ken Larkin, the city manager of Danville, and he was talking about how it used to be that people moved to communities because their job was there, but now everybody works remote. So people don't move to communities because of the job. They move there because they want to live there. So now you have to entice them to come there. You have to have parks. You have to have trails. You have to have things for people to do so that they want to choose your location. So that's why Parks and Recs is really critical now, because people don't have to live there. They choose to live there, and that's key.
Yeah, that gets at that quality of life piece that we always talk about here, where, while we may not have any controls when it comes to the school system, we can create a quality of life in this town that says we value families and children and young professionals, and we want them to move here. And that is done through things that attract them.
One of the things that I'd like us all to think about is that some folks had their assessments done, and I've talked to people out in the county and people in town. Some people had their assessments go up 10%. Some people had 20, 30, 40%. I've talked to a couple people that their assessments went up 600%. Those are the people that are going to get hit hardest in anything, whether it's a reduction. I mean, they're still going to get hit hard regardless, but I'm not saying not to do anything. I just want everybody to be aware of there are people that are outliers, and it's going to suck for them.
So can we start our discussion at 18 cents on the dollar?
And not on the dollar, Sally, on the 100.
18 cents on the 100.
I'm sorry, 18, yes, please, 18 cents.
I was at 23, but I can go down to 18.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a good talking point. I mean, we've got 26, we got a double. So wherever y'all want to start.
I think we got to start with, if we're not cutting something out of the overview of the general fund, if we're not cutting anything out, what's it going to take to balance the budget?
No, I mean, I gave you two that I think you could do
Okay.
that we can wait till the
Okay.
following fiscal year, which is 110 for the sidewalk study. I don't think moving it 1 year is going to make a huge difference. And we can do away with the 160,000 for the generator. We can cover the permitting. The majority of it is for the generator.
So
I still would like to know what it would be to lease it to purchase. If it's possible.
A lease purchase. Sure.
So
But remember, with a lease purchase, it doesn't reduce our expenditure, because it shows as revenue and expenditure. So by doing away with it, by doing it that way, it doesn't help our budget. The only way it helps it if we cut it and do it in the following fiscal year.
I just want a way, if our generator goes down, we have a way to have another generator on standby.
I'll ask Brian in Public Works. We do have a generator that that we can move around, and I just need to make sure that it's large enough to do that, but I can check that.
So I'm going to kind of meet in the middle, since it looks like the 20 cents is where we're going to be balanced. And I don't like it, but.
Can I make one comment, Mr.
Sure.
Hardy? So if you do the 110 and the 160, you're cutting that deficit by $270,000 from that point. So, but remember, add 100,000 to the number and then deduct the 270.
So give us our calculation with all that you just said.
Quick.
Well, you tell me what number and I'll get Julie to do it.
Right. If you just cut the sidewalk and the generator. And you
270,000.
want, that's 270, and you want things to balance at that point, it would be at 21 cents. From my quick math. If you wanted it lower than that, you would have to cut more. That was my quick math. I could be incorrect.
Yes. No, that would,
I
that would,
wanna
that would
make
break,
a-
that would be pretty much breaking even.
I'm going to make just a general comment to try to help people follow what we're doing and why we're doing what we're doing. We have several challenges with us. We have unique situations in the fact that the town of Farmville itself cannot grow physically because of the fact that we are limited as far as our boundaries are concerned. So therefore, whoever lives inside the town of Farmville, the only way that we can increase that is by trying to attract people to come and live in the town of Farmville to where we can create more of a tax base. But right now, with what we're facing, we have limited options of where to get this kind of financing from in order to balance our budget.
I also want to, if I can, Mr. Parrott.
Sure.
One other point for you all to consider as well is something else I've mentioned it in the past, more recently. You remember we had Davenport come in and give you a presentation about our financial stability. We're also talking about going to get rated in a general obligation bond. When you do that, this is the part I've told you before, when you go to do that, you have to have a tax, and they want to see that it's consistent at a certain rate, and what that rate is. That's our real estate tax rate. All the other ones are variable. So they can ebb and flow. Meals, lodging, sales, permit fees, those, but the big four are, yes, I have that number right. Real estate, meals, lodging, and sales tax. Lodging and meals tax are larger than our real estate tax. That's not a good sign for those rating agencies when it's that much lower than those.
Correct me if I'm
So
wrong, it
we
also
need to
puts us in a dangerous situation as far as if, and I'm just talking in generalities, but if we were to go into a recession and all of a sudden our meals tax and our hotels were not visited as frequently or used as much as they are, then that would also cause us to have a huge deficit in our budget as well.
It can.
Whereas if we have a stable rate of sales on real estate, the tax on real estate, it would help cushion the blow. Not that it's going to do away with it, but it would help us stability-wise.
That and the other is that you have, together we have done a good job in the last several years of maintaining a good fund balance by having financial policies that require us to do that. It's another way to sustain a recession. But just for y'all's knowledge is it's not just about this budget. That's key. But long-term, we need a sustainable revenue that's more than, right now it's less than $1 million for real estate. That's what we bring in, less than $1 million. We bring in over $2 million in meals tax. So, I mean, I'm not saying go to $2 million on real estate tax, but it's got to be, we've got to show that there is a more consistent tax that's higher than what it is.
But before this slips my mind, the 12% that we're paying to eat the cost of the insurance, can I get a breakdown, doesn't have to be today, about how much it would cost each employee if we did not do that? I just need that from me. Yeah.
We already have that. I mean, in other words, I think if I have it right, I did it, I looked at most people would be on a family, and most are on the 250, it would be, they lose if they had to take the increase under the current percentage, and correct me if I'm wrong, Amanda, it would hit them by $1,000 for the year less in their income.
That's what I wanted to know.
I can't read this. It's too small. I can't read it. I think it's $1,000.
Just in the interim, I think one of the things that COVID woke us up to was the variable tax rate being dangerous. The over-reliance on a variable taxes was dangerous because in a moment of COVID and shutdown, there was a lot of money that disappeared. And that over-dependence on that variable taxes for this locality proved to be not only harmful for those businesses, but harmful for the government here as well.
If we're looking at what it would be per pay period, because we are paying biweekly, for the Key Advantage 250 plan for the family, it's $39.47 each pay period that it would increase by. If you're looking at an employee plus a dependent, it's $27.02. Single would be $4.76. If we look at the middle plan, which is Key Advantage 500, which we have less employees on, for the single, it goes up by $1.98. Dual would be $22.32, and the family is $32.37.
So the most affected is the 250 family, and at that rate,
Yes, sir.
it's a little over $1,000 they would lose out of their paycheck for the year.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I'd like to jump back to the numbers, and as I said, I'm kind of a numbers geek. And Julie, can you please correct me if I'm wrong? But based on the fact that we would be not losing 292.5 off of, we would not get rid of 292.5. We would actually only be getting rid of 97.5. So we'd have to keep 195 on there in order to balance the budget roughly, and didn't go to the penny, we would have to go, to balance the budget this year, we would have to go to 22 cents. And that's just kind of where, because we're at the far right column, it's basically, let's just call it 75. And if you add 195 to that, you get 270. And that's our number 110 and 160. So
We could make it work though.
I understand.
21.
I understand that, but I just wanted to get everybody on the, and I'm not trying to prove anybody wrong or anything like that. I just, like I said, I'm kind of a numbers freak. And I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of what it is.
What if we just went to 10 cent and did 23 for a cushion? Just 10 cent?
I'm sorry. So do I read, and correct me if this is incorrect, that was a pretty heavy-duty thing you were talking about, keeping the tax rate. So if we anticipated next year might be a tough tax year, I mean, or a tough thing to balance the budget, let's assume that going into would that be 2026?
So we're going into FY '26 budget. You're talking about the FY '27.
Right. So if we went to say 21 or 22 cents, and then things got tight in that following year, are you suggesting that the bond rating people would like to see us go higher, and now that we might anticipate that we could then, let's say we went to 24, then in 2027, 24 might cover it, and we could keep it consistent? Is that kind of where you were going with that? Or did that not make sense at all?
No, I'm saying that increasing in general the real estate tax rate to have a higher amount for real property coming in than the other variable taxes is what they're looking at, because it's consistent. The others are not consistent.
And I agree with Mr. Parrots. In the next few years, we may have some funds taken away from us that we depend upon now. So do we wait till then, or do we try to meet it halfway?
And that was a big discussion in DC over the last few days was, one, there's a bunch of things on the horizon. One is on the chopping block potentially is municipal bonds. And municipal bonds are traditionally tax exempt. On the chopping block currently is removing tax exempt status from municipal bonds as a way to get at the national deficit. So what that would do is, for instance, in our situation, we're looking at part of this whole conversation is an expansion of the fire department, the expansion of the firehouse. That's an $11 million project currently that we're looking at that we were going to fund through municipal bonds. If those municipal bonds cease to be tax exempt, that price tag jumps. And that's something that local governments have to think about because there's a bit of uncertainty right now as far as where federal cuts are going to come from. But I know it's in the top 10 cuts that they're considering. And so that makes it possibly going away. And as a locality that, one, we fund our bus primarily through federal monies. There are lots of things, to Mr. Hunter's point, that in the future, in the next few years, could impact us significantly.
And we might need another tax increase, conceivably.
I mean, I tend to, I look at things historically, and when we got that report that said the tax rate was 22 cents in the 80s, I was like, there was tax cuts then, and there were cuts to federal funding then, and localities had to answer. If you want to close the gap on revenue lost, and this is not in the slightest meant to be any form of partisan discussion, because as I said to somebody, I don't see things through those lenses. I just look at, here are potential problems that are on the rise. How do we make sure we're set up security-wise to weather those storms? And there may be some to come. That tax-exempt status of municipal bonds would be a big one.
I would love to see us fix it for this year, and if we're able to go back down another year, next year or the year after. I mean, people think, oh my gosh, my taxes are going up. Obviously, they have gone down in the past. Oh my gosh, my taxes are going up. Well, hopefully we can bring them back down another penny or two or something in the coming years. But I think I agree. I think with Mr. Hunter and the mayor that we definitely need to fix this issue right now to keep providing the services that we do provide.
Just remember, I'm not saying you can't do that, but just remember where we are now because they did lower the taxes. I mean, had they not lowered them, there wouldn't be this situation potentially. I mean.
Okay, let's do a little open talking here. We got to come up with an answer here. Everybody's sitting around kind of quiet. Sally, where, if you don't mind me asking, do you mind sharing your thoughts?
I'd say 23 cents.
Mr. Reed, do you have an opinion?
I said 21.
Mr. Dwyer?
I see the merits in 23. 22, if that covered it, would be fine, but if we want to put a, 22, 23, either way, I can go either way.
I personally would think possibly 22 would be, I'm just kind of talking out loud, just like y'all.
My number was 23 when I started.
I'm good with 22, 23. I mean, I'm with Dan on this one, Mr. Dwyer. It's going to hurt, but, we got to do something.
Who wants to make a motion?
Well, this would be to announce a public hearing. Right?
This is just, you don't even, I mean, so that it's not confusing, don't make a motion, just Because I don't want the public to think that you're saying this is gonna be it, because it can't be it. You've actually gotta hold a public hearing, hear from them, explain all this again for anybody that does come to the public hearing. First, you have to equalize it. Then you have to have another ordinance that would increase it. So this is just telling the staff to move towards drafting the public hearing for X amount, not that this is what the council is approving.
Then I'm going to say that we are all somewhat in or around anywhere from 20 to 25 cents proposed as of right now. But we're not firm on anything until we have a public hearing.
You gotta have.
you gotta have it set before?
You gotta have a set rate for the public hearing. So what my point is that I don't want anybody to think you're saying this is a vote tonight, it's 23 cents. All you're saying tonight is you're gonna propose in a public hearing for that amount.
Then I'd like to propose that we make the tax rate at, no, I'm not, for us, and I'm not making a motion, that we come in agreement that we make it a 20, perceived at 22 cents.
I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Thank you, Chuck.
So, just so I have it, we will, at the April meeting, we will have a public hearing for an ordinance to, I just lost the word. Equalize the tax rate, and then we will have another public hearing for setting the tax rate at 22 cents.
That seemed to be the consensus on the dais, yes. All right.
And
Mr.
Tommy-
Davis, Town Manager's Report.
Well, I might have done a lot of meetings for nothing lately. Since our last meeting, I met with Mosley Architects about upgrading our 911 center and our EOC. But it is good to have that information. Also met with, Julie and I met with Davenport about our general obligation bond issuance. So we will be getting more information to them to start that process. Our goal is to hopefully go before the rating agencies in October, and then they will put it, depending on how that rating goes, and we put it on the market for sale, and hopefully be done before the new calendar year. Met with Hurt and Profit on the sidewalk plan, but at least we had the conversation. We can always go back to them in 27. Met with FAA, Julie, Ashley, and myself met with the FAA and Delta, our airport consultants, on our airport capital improvement plan, because those types of things have to be, some are funded by federal funds. What we did learn from that conversation as well is that all funds are frozen at this time, and they don't have any money for certain resources for us to do capital items. So those will be limited until further notice. We are moving forward on our recruitment for the Director of Public Works position. We've had one interview. We've also spoken with a headhunting firm that has already found a few potential interests. So hopefully we'll be moving to do some of those in the near future, in a few weeks. The splash pad, all the rocks are gone. All the new concrete around it is poured. We're also going to fence in the tank so that nobody can run over it again or whatever happened when it was installed or whatever. And then we are already, this week they've done that, and they've also put down topsoil, and Jay Wilkerson is going to work his magic and get some grass growing in the next little bit. So around that area. That's all I have, I think, at this point. We have our street paving out to bid. That'll be due, that's due by March the 25th. And of course, that has to be completed by June 30. We'll use our street maintenance funds for that, obviously. That's all I got.
Mr. Wilkinson had some of his funds frozen as well, if I remember correctly. Did he not?
I'm sorry?
Horticulturist, didn't he have some of his funds frozen recently as
Oh,
well?
a project for the heat island that we were going to plant? Yes, that was frozen.
All right, I'll go around the table. Mr. Hardy?
I think I'm set enough tonight.
Mr. Hunter?
Mr. Davis, can we get when what streets are gonna be done in this, the next time they're done?
Yes, I can get you. It's in the CIP for 5 year out, but I can get you the list that's going to be paved this year, and then when the budget comes, you'll see for the next year.
Thank you.
Mr. Parrott?
I think I'd like to say that I appreciate everybody trying to be flexible through tonight, because tonight was a very, very difficult thing. I know that we all worried a lot about this. This has not been done on spur of the moment. We have all talked to each other from time to time, and I'm proud of the fact that we were able to come to some middle ground and be able to get through this, because this was not easy at all. Thank you.
Mr. Dwyer?
I'm good, Mayor.
Mr. Reed?
I'm good.
Ms. Amos?
I'm good.
Yeah, I don't know if I can summarize it any better than Mr. Parrott. It is not done lightly. Nothing is done lightly. And it is weighed heavy on the folks here who are also citizens of this town. And so all the decisions that they make impact them as well. So none of it is done lightly. And it's always, as we spoke many times on the phone, you look at these decisions and try to make the best decision for the, do the most amount of good for the most amount of people, and it's not always an enjoyable process. But that is the process we're here for, and I do appreciate all of you for endeavoring in it, because it's not always easy. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn if there is no longer any business before us.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Ayes have it, thank you.